All right, everybody, welcome in to another episode of the NFL Seekers podcast. Today, we'll be recapping week 6 of the NFL season. Both of the remaining undefeated teams lost to absolute juggernauts. The Eagles and 49ers somehow went down. I lost picks to Shane by one game. I just keep getting unlucky in picks, and I need to start regaining my form here. But yeah, Shane won picks again. Stores isn't here because the Chargers are kind of choke artists, and they kind of choked away his fantasy win against Shane as well. So yeah, it's a rough week for Stores. He gets the pass.
Yeah, let's just say Stores had a rough Monday night. Um, his Chargers, it was a stressful game all along for him. That's why he's not here. He's crying in his bed. He's sad about the Chargers, but he's sad that he lost me in fantasy. It was a big rivalry week between me and Stores. A lot of crap talking between us. At the end, the better team just kind of came through. Um, he's now 2-4. He's getting into a deep hole, and he's gonna have to make some changes to that roster of his. So let's just say we'll probably see Justin Herbert being shipped off this week.
That's heartbreaking. His favorite player, man. But why don't you tell the listeners how Stores lost to you in the end?
It is pretty crazy. So I was up by 29 coming into Monday night. Stores had Justin Herbert and Josh Palmer, and all I had was Brandon Aubrey, the kicker for the Cowboys. And it was just pretty slow start for the Chargers. If you watch, but coming down the last drive, the Chargers could have won it. Justin Herbert needed 2 more points, just over 2 more points, and instead he throws a pick, and I win. Game over. It was the most roller coaster of a emotion game I've ever watched when it comes to fantasy implications. But at the end of the day, the better team just came out ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that was absolutely crazy. When Brandon Aubrey hit that field goal, I was like, there's no way that Josh is about to lose this. And then I thought surely he had Josh Palmer, so I thought surely Palmer would get a catch or something. But it's crazy, man. And Herbert looks pretty rough. Like, we'll get into the games here, but Herbert wasn't great. But yeah,
Yeah,
rough day for Stores, man, to say the least. But we'll get into our stud and goof of the week. We'll kind of quickly go over it because there wasn't any too big of a goof, but we'll start off with our stud of the week, Raheem Mostert. Just vintage Mostert game again. 34.2 points in PPR. He had 115 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns, 3 receptions, 17 yards. And did he have a receiving touchdown? Yep, a receiving touchdown as well. So Raheem Mostert, just an absolute beast. He's like trying to make a case for offensive player of the year right now. Fun to watch.
it's crazy. He's the stud of the week again. And I'd say as of right now, we just finished up week 6. I would say he's the steal of the draft. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I would say he's the steal of the draft, especially at the running back position being so scarce, and there's just not many options. Depth is so important. You probably got this guy as maybe your third running back, and now he's the number 1 running back in fantasy football. So yeah, he's been absolutely killing it. That Dolphins offense is terrifying.
Yeah, just an absolute steal for fantasy. Hopefully, you can keep it up. And then we'll get on to our goof of the week, Devontae Adams. I know he'll bounce back. He may be playing injured, but Devontae just kind of screwed over a lot of fantasy managers this week, so we kind of had to highlight his 2 catch performance. It's kind of unacceptable.
Yeah, well, it's a little frustrating because if he is injured, just sit him for a game and let him get fully healthy. Um, Jacoby Myers I'm glad I'm not a manager of Devontae Adams because Jacoby Myers looks just like him with the long hair, and you think it's going to him, but it's Jacoby Myers every time. But yeah, he's been disappointing. He was disappointing this week, and I'm pretty sure, yeah, last week on Monday Night Football, he's disappointing as well. And also, I want to quickly mention George Kittle. That dude, 1 catch, 1 yard. That's terrible. I know it's a good defense, but Debo got knocked out early. CMC wasn't there. That's pretty unfortunate that George Kittle wasn't able to step up.
Yep. George Kittle, big goof of the week. Devontae Adams didn't come through for your guys' fantasy games, but we'll get on to the game recaps. We'll start with the Thursday night game. The Broncos went into Kansas City and lost to the Chiefs 19-8. And yeah, the dink and dunk Russell Wilson offense isn't going to be enough to beat the Chiefs. Definitely the worst game of his season. The Chiefs defense is solid, man. It pretty much looked like the 2022 Denver Broncos out there, and Kelsey's a beast. Mahomes is a beast, but Pacheco, I just want to highlight Pacheco. He runs like he's just mad at the ground. That's what the announcer said in the game, and it's a great analogy. Like he literally does run like he's mad at the ground. He's just such a hard runner, and Pacheco is going to be pretty big for fantasy moving forward. He's going to be big for the Chiefs, like heading into the playoffs. He's a big part of this offense, and it's good to see Rashee Rice getting involved as well.
Yeah, Rashee Rice, he's looked pretty solid the last week or two now. Mahomes, obviously for real life football for the Chiefs, he's amazing. He's perfect. For fantasy football, he's definitely disappointing for everyone's expectations and where you drafted him. I mean, it's that defense that's kind of hurting him. Last year, their defense wasn't that great, and they're in more high scoring shootouts. This year, not so much. This defense is much better. So it's definitely hurting Mahomes' value.
Yeah, Mahomes is throwing picks. They're not looking like the absolute like juggernaut that they usually are. Like they're just going to blow out every team. They're kind of playing in closer games than they usually are. And we're not really used to it for the Chiefs, but they'll be fine. Travis Kelce, another great week in fantasy. It's just kind of Mahomes that needs to play a little bit more surgical, less picks, get more touchdowns. The receivers need to play better, less drops. And yeah, for the Broncos, I did want to mention Sean Payton hasn't been impressive at all. And keeping Marvin Mims off the field is like a fireable offense at this point, and it just frustrates me more every week.
And I think this week, and I guess next week too, technically, because the deadline is not until end of next week, or yeah, the 31st, I believe. I think we're on Jerry Jeudy trade watch potentially. We'll see what they do there. That'll be interesting.
Yep, Jerry Jeudy looks like the Eagles are looking for some secondary help, so Justin Simmons could be on the move. But Jerry Jeudy and Courtland Sutton are two big names to monitor, especially this week after this loss. I think the Broncos are going to be selling almost everyone.
Yep.
But yeah, I think moving forward is kind of we know what we're doing in fantasy with these teams. I think honestly, I'm selling Javonte. I'm trying to sell Javonte. I'm just not with McLaughlin kind of emerging. I'm just not confident in this Broncos offense and running game. The Broncos are a mess.
If you can get out of Javonte, yeah, I would as soon as you possibly can.
And Jeudy, I mean, you can wait and see if Jeudy comes into a better situation if he gets traded, but just the whole Broncos offense it's depressing. Like I'm trying to get away from it if I can.
Definitely.
Let's get into a much better game. Let's get into the London game. The Ravens will beat the Titans 24-16, and Lamar special. He had a great game in London. He was kind of putting on a showcase the whole game. He didn't really convert well in the red zone, but they were kind of dominating the Titans till the end. Lamar was just throwing dots, and the dude just stands strong in the pocket and throws it with accuracy with the best of them. You kind of love to see it. Lamar's playing some great football, and Tannehill terrible. Before getting injured, he was terrible. Tannehill was just terrible, man.
I mean, this obviously he was terrible, but bringing in Malik Willis for this offense is going to, the fantasy options, the receivers were for the most part irrelevant. D-Hop was startable, but now with the Malik Willis starting, it's bench everyone. It's red alert. That's scary having Malik Willis ran offense, and if they go with Will Levis for some reason, I think that'll be terrible as well. He's not it. I don't think he'll ever be it. Derrick Henry in the box score looks good, but he got saved by one. I think it was like a 64-yard long run. And Tajay Spears, he looks so electric. I don't wish, but I do wish at the same time that they use him more. And it seems like that they're starting to use him more.
Crazy. He outsnapped Henry again. And yeah, he's so shifty. He has real juice. We saw in that run after the catch. He's awesome. I love Spears. Do you know if Tannehill's like out for a few weeks or if he's going to be back this week? Or
he's out for a couple weeks.
Really? So it's going to be Malik Willis. That is interesting then. Wow. That is interesting for fantasy moving forward. I mean, that scares me for almost every single option, including Derrick Henry, which says a lot.
Yeah.
DeAndre Hopkins has to take a big hit, and Malik Willis looked like he was taking a big step up in the offseason, but I'll be honest, he didn't really look good in this game. He was taking way too long to throw, just sitting in the pocket. He looked pretty rough. He looked like last year Malik Willis, but yeah. And I did want to mention, it was pretty funny, Hopkins getting up when Kyle Phillips sat down next to him after fumbling, and Hopkins got right up, just got away from him. That was pretty funny.
It was pretty funny because right when he sat down, Hopkins gave him a little look to the side and then got up. It was pretty funny. And then on the Ravens side, the receivers, Zay Flowers is he's his clear number one target. You could argue Mark Andrews, but Zay Flowers has been getting more targets than him this week, and I think last week as well. Zay Flowers, he finally got in the end zone. That was awesome. He's such an electric player. As a fantasy manager of him, I love watching him.
He's been so awesome. How happy are you if you drafted Zay Flowers? I got him in a few leagues, and I'm over the moon. He's awesome. He's a must start every week.
Yeah, you're 100% starting him. Other than so far he's been the best rookie wide receiver, but everyone else has been pretty disappointing. Addison is definitely, he's starter worthy depending on your situation, but for the most part, everyone's been pretty disappointing. Those first round wide receivers I'm talking about with Jason, Quentin Johnston. Who am I missing?
Addison, Flowers.
Was there not 5? Or was there 4?
I think it was just 4.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, Quentin Johnston's been nowhere to be found. I was going to ask, I wrote in my notes for the Chargers segment if he's caught a ball this whole season, but Stores isn't even here. But yeah, he's been disappointing. And yeah, Flowers and Addison have been great. Anyone else want to talk about this one?
I think at this point you can drop Quentin Johnston tonight. 0 points off two targets. I think one target was completely uncatchable that I can remember. He's at this point 6 weeks in. I don't know if it's worth holding on to him and wasting a bench spot.
That's really unfortunate. You'd wish to see him take advantage of that Mike Williams opportunity because he's like kind of built like Mike Williams. So
he is Mike Williams.
Yeah, and Jackson Smith and Jigba, he is kind of starting to get into that buy low territory. But the Seahawks offense really runs through 2 receivers, so it's hard, man. It's hard to say that you could really see him being good in the future. I don't know.
Yep,
the hard path for JSN, but. We'll get on to the crazy game and the 1:00 game. The 49ers go into Cleveland and lose to the Browns 19-17. Not only do they lose to the Browns, they lose to PJ Walker's led Browns. That was crazy. They beat the juggernaut with their backup. And in my opinion, this was the 2 best defenses in the NFL facing off in this game. I think they kind of both proved that in this game. The Browns especially proved that they're a special defense, like Legion of Boom tier defense. They were crazy. The conditions kind of got to Brock Purdy and it kind of got the best of him. It wasn't Brock Purdy's best game, that's for sure. Yeah, I think that's kind of the storyline here is the conditions got to Purdy and he isn't perfect, I guess.
No, I mean he needs that man they call Christian McCaffrey, clearly. Brandon Ayuk, he ended up having a fine 4 for 76, a fine fantasy day, but he did have some pretty bad drops. He still had 10 targets, which is great. But that's just kind of what he got all the targets, and George Kittle ended up with only 2 targets. We talked about in the preseason, this offense with all these mouths to feed. It's going to rotate with these guys for who's going to bust on a week-to-week basis. And it was George Kittle's week, even though it feels like he shouldn't have, considering the 2 guys that got knocked out. And then, running back wise, Christian McCaffrey, it seems like it's going to be a close one if he plays or not. I know it's still early. It's only Monday night. But if he plays or not Monday, and unfortunately he does play Monday Night Football next week, so you got to make a decision. Jordan Mason, he's going to be a big waiver wire pickup. I think it's definitely going to be worth a good chunk of your, not a good chunk. If you need a start this week, go get Jordan Mason.
And is Elijah Mitchell like relevant at all, or is it just Jordan Mason?
He had 2 carries for -3 yards. So
good job, Elijah. Good stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, on the Browns, like defensively, they were insane. Amari Cooper did better than you expected, and honestly, like Kareem Hunt and Jerome Ford, they started off rough, but they ended off with pretty good games, each of them. I think the Browns moving forward, like you got to be excited for Deshaun Watson. I'm starting him in a league moving forward. I think the Browns just have a lot of momentum after getting this big win. So you got to kind of be more excited about their fantasy options than you were. And for the 49ers, you just got to monitor those injuries. It kind of all depends on Debo and CMC, but it looks like they won't be too long-term.
Yep.
And obviously, as we saw, they're going to feed Ayuk and Kittle while they can if they are out. We'll get on to the next game. The Texans beat the Saints 20-13. D'Amico Ryans, like what a damn coach he is. God, like the Texans are awesome. They have like a top 10 defense with a bunch of random people out there. They've got a great offense. Stroud's playing like a veteran. I love the Ohio State to Michigan connection with CJ Stroud and Nico Collins. So love the Texans. Really fun to watch. Dalton Schultz has been a great great security blanket for Stroud. So really fun for the Texans right now, man.
I don't know why I'm thinking about this. I could be completely tripping, but in our preview for this week last week, did I say CJ Stroud was going to have an interception this week?
Yeah,
Did I
so
say
you were like over under CJ Stroud
half?
throwing one pick this week, and I took it, and Stores didn't, and I was right.
Okay, yeah, 'cause I think I did set it at like 0.5 interceptions, and
Yeah.
I think you and I took the over. That's right. That's pretty funny. He looks so good though. It's starting to look like the Panthers made the wrong choice. It's still early. Can't come to too many conclusions yet. Um, Alvin Kamara, that dude, I really wish I drafted him. He's just a PPR machine. He looks awesome. And did you see that clip of Jameis Winston talking to him on the sideline?
And Alvin's
His
face was just like,
it that was the funniest reaction that Alvin had. Like, I was laughing out loud. It was the funniest looking thing. I don't
Alvin
know.
had to tweet about it after.
I didn't even see that, but he looked high as a kite. I don't know what Jameis was saying to him, but that was hilarious. Um, who else? Nico Collins. He's been a steal for sure. Damian Pierce. Does he suck? I think he sucks. Does he suck? Is that what it is?
They were playing Singletary way too much in this game. Like every time
Oh,
like Singletary played way too much.
12 carries for Singletary, 13 for Damian Pierce.
That's way too close.
Oh, and then 2 targets for Singletary.
That's a terrible split. I mean, like honestly, Pierce looks good when he gets the ball too. I don't understand that split, honestly.
Good bounce back game from I say bounce back because last week he got saved by a touchdown. He, 7 catches for 96 yards on 10 targets. That's what you like to see. And classic Rashid Shaheed. I think he's a good spot start for you. If you need someone, toss him in and pray for that big 50-yard touchdown. And he had it this week.
Yeah, I was gonna say Rashid Shaheed is just him at this point. Like he needs to get a lot more work for the Saints. They need to feed him. He had an insane Moss over Steven Nelson, who Steven Nelson got the game-winning pick in the end. But yeah, Rashid Shaheed is really fun. You can definitely spot start him for some potential. I mean, we see how good he is as a returner after the catch. He's just a beast. Anyone else you want to highlight in this one? You saw Robert Woods can probably be started if Tank Dell isn't started, but if Tank Dell's in, I don't know if you could start Robert Woods.
Yeah, and they're going into their bye, and they came out today. D'Amico Ryan said in week 8, Tank Dell will be back. So I think Tank Dell and Nico Collins are your only for sure starts at wide receiver. Dalton Schultz is definitely worth looking at depending on your situation, depending on your tight end situation.
Yeah, but you're very excited about the Texans moving forward, and the Saints are kind of just the same. We'll get on to the next one. The Bengals beat the Seahawks in Cincy 17-13. The Bengals D really delivered in this one. Lou Anarumo delivered a masterclass. The Bengals are going to go into the bye week feeling pretty good about themselves. That Jamar Chase had another good game. Joe Burrow looking healthier week by week while he's playing. Modern medicine is crazy. They can go out on the field and heal weekly while they're on the field. It's pretty crazy, but Joe Burrow's looking better week by week. He's getting more mobile, making good decisions, looking downfield, spreading the ball around. T. Higgins is starting to look a little bit better. I think only had like 2 catches though, so T. Higgins might be a good buy low candidate in fantasy.
Yeah, he could be. He's clearly not healthy right now.
Yeah.
And then also Joe Mixon, man, that dude. I wasn't a fan of him going to during draft season, but this week he had 12 carries for 38 yards. His longest carry was 5 yards. It feels like it's a touchdown or you're going to be disappointed in Joe Mixon. He did bring in 3 catches for 24 yards, so it definitely helped his week a little bit. And then on the other side for the Seahawks, Kenneth Walker, that dude gets so much work. 19 carries and 3 catches off 3 targets. He's looking awesome.
I'm really hurting. Like honestly, every night before I go to bed, I hurt that I didn't draft Kenneth Walker. To be fair, I drafted Breece Hall and it's looking better like week by week. But
Yeah.
a few weeks ago, that really hurt me. I was having trouble sleeping at night, like weeks into the season, drafting Breece Hall over Kenneth Walker. But Kenneth Walker is just a fantasy beast, and I think everyone kind of overthought him, putting him low on rankings for some reason this offseason with Charbonnet coming in. Walker's a stud. The Seahawks were fine, but I just think the Bengals defense kind of outmatched Geno and
Yeah.
And Jackson Smith and Jigba, like we kind of touched on, you kind of see him getting a little bit more involved, but it's still way too scary to start him. Maybe you could stash him, but man, I don't know. It's a hard path for JSN to be a good fantasy option, in my opinion.
depending on your bench situation, he's worth a stash. Barring an injury from Tyler Lockett or DK, he could be slid into a pretty big role.
Same with Charbonnet in the case of
Yeah.
injury. But we'll get on to the next one. The Jaguars kind of roll the Colts in Jacksonville 37-20. The Jags complete the sweep of the Colts in 2023, and ETN is really rolling. He's kind of the highlight of this game. He's the takeaway of this game. They're leaning on ETN, and that offense is looking great with him. He's just been so good on all aspects, and they're kind of leaning into ETN, Evan Ingram, and Christian Kirk, the kind of last year's offensive stars, and they're kind of leaning into that, and it's really working for them. Forcing things that Calvin Ridley hasn't really been effective for them so far. At least Calvin Ridley hasn't been great. But yeah, not great from Gardner Minshew. The Colts weren't too solid. The Jaguars defense is kind of rolling though, so it's tough.
Yeah, Gardner 3 picks. It didn't look great. It wasn't great for him, but his weapons were, because he threw the ball 55 times, it worked out. Michael Pittman got 14 targets, brought in 9 catches for 109 yards. Josh Downs also, he had 8 targets. He ended up bringing 5 for only 21 yards, but he did have a touchdown, so that's huge. He's definitely, keep holding on to him. I think he's definitely worth starting, depending on, with bye weeks and everything. Jonathan Taylor did finally out-carry Zach Moss. That's a good start. They're starting to split. Last week it was Zach Moss ahead of him. Now they're splitting. Next week we should see JT ahead of him, but Zach Moss still had a good day. He had 21 yards, a touchdown. So the weapons are still good weapons on this team, even though Gardner Minshew looks kind of gross.
Yeah, and I want to say 21 yards and 8 targets is crazy for Josh Downs. That'll definitely get better. The touchdown kind of bailed him out, but I think he's startable moving forward with Gardner Minshew. If he's going to start the rest of the season, I think, if you're in a 12-team league, I think Josh Downs is just kind of a good flex option. You kind of got a good waiver wire pickup there. I'm happy I have him personally in my league, and I am optimistic about Michael Pittman, Josh Downs, Jonathan Taylor, all even with Gardner Minshew.
Are you starting?
And real quick, Christian Kirk is like wide receiver 18, and Calvin Ridley is like wide receiver 24. I know it's on the opposite side, but that's just crazy. Christian Kirk was a steal of the draft in fantasy, one of the steals
For sure. Josh Downs, he's definitely looking. I'm trying to find some names to kind of. Would you rather play like Josh Downs or Rashee Rice?
Josh Downs for sure.
Josh Downs, yeah, I do Josh Downs, or I can't find any names that I feel even to him. Josh Downs or
Zach Moss.
Josh Downs.
Yeah. Jahan Dotson, who's been struggling.
Josh Downs.
Yeah. I think Josh Downs is a decent start, really.
Yeah, he really is. He's getting the targets.
Yeah, I love it. If you're in a PPR league, you got to love the targets. But anything else you want to say on this one?
Trevor Lawrence did get hurt. He might be out this week, and that sucks because I'm going to see him and going to the Pittsburgh Jaguars game in 2 weeks. So I'm really hoping he's healthy for week 8. So we'll be watching that.
Yeah, hopefully the Trevor injury isn't more than a week. I would think it would just be 1 week. I honestly couldn't tell you. I think CJ Beathard is their backup quarterback, and Jake Luton off the top of my head, but. Yeah, that would be a rough situation for even Christian Kirk and Calvin Ridley. That would be a big downgrade. Hopefully Trevor's okay.
Yep.
Monitor that. We'll get on to the next one. The Commanders going to Atlanta and beat the Falcons 24-16. I think the takeaway on this one is Ritter is kind of sadly a backup, and hopefully the Falcons realize that soon. And Ritter, I have a lot of notes on Ritter, I guess. Just Ritter's the worst, holding this team back so much, actively lost them this game. And they lost to a struggling Commanders team. So it's pretty disappointing. And Ritter is just not the answer.
Also, if Tyler Algier is a good NFL running back, but if you're going to draft Bijan where they drafted him, why are they splitting the carries? Why are they completely splitting it with him and Tyler Algier? They both had 13 carries. Tyler Algier was more efficient, 51 yards versus Bijan's 37. So on the ground, Algier looked better. Through the air, obviously Bijan gets gets work through the air. He had 5 catches for 43 yards off 8 targets. That's kind of where the fantasy value is. It comes in. I guess I should say it adds more fantasy value, but the rushing situation is very bizarre to me.
Yeah, they shouldn't be splitting that much at all. I thought they were getting away from that, and so they're going the wrong direction. They should be leaning more into Bijan. It's obvious, but it was interesting. It was kind of a weird game script for the Falcons. They really passed the hell out of the ball. They passed it way more than they would definitely like to than they usually do. And Ritter still wasn't very efficient at all. But Drake London and Kyle Pitts, they were efficient through the air. It'll be like with Kyle Pitts, it's so hard because he's in a tight end by committee in this offense. So can you really start him? I couldn't personally, but Drake London, you can start. He's looking good. But yeah, like I said, this is an interesting and kind of an out of the blue game script for the Falcons that's different than normal.
Definitely. And Terry McLaurin, he's been okay. I'd say maybe a little bit disappointing. But this week, 6 catches for 81 yards off 11 targets. I mean, that was clearly he was clearly the number one dude. Obviously, that's what he should be. But it's been kind of a interesting start for him this year. He had the next highest target was Curtis Samuel at 4. So it's Terry McLaurin. He's just hasn't really found the end zone.
Yeah, and speaking of disappointing, it's just like Jahan Dotson. I don't know what I thought. Sam Howell and Jahan Dotson had a better connection than this. It's like they aren't even looking at him. He's out there. He's having all the snaps. He just isn't getting targets. I don't know what's up with him.
1 target for Jahan Dotson.
Crazy. He has like more snaps than everyone other than Terry, but he's getting out targeted by everyone. So it's just a weird with Dotson. I don't know what they're just using him wrong. Simply, really.
Yep.
And Brian Robinson, I'm so excited about Brian Robinson. I've been trying to trade for him in like every single one of my leagues. I've failed so far, but I'm going to try again. It's going to be harder because of this game, but he's just a beast, and I think he's going to be great all season.
I do like Brian Robinson a lot, and he started out the year awesome, and then I'm just trying to, if I remember correctly, I'm pulling up the schedule. He's had a tough schedule. Buffalo. Oh, okay, maybe he hasn't. But he's still, 13 points, 29 points, 7, 13, 8, 13. And then he's got the Giants, Philly, New England, Seattle. He's actually going forward the next 5 weeks. He's got a pretty good looking schedule. I would definitely try to go out there and get Brian Robinson.
Yeah, I had someone ask me if they should start Javonte Williams or Brian Robinson this week. And when I said Brian Robinson, they were surprised. And I was like, wow, I need to trade for Brian Robinson now. So yeah, I think people are sleeping on Brian Robinson. He's a must start moving forward, in my opinion, at least. Maybe I'm too high.
No, 100%. He's the running back 14 right now.
Yeah, I love me some Brian Robinson. He's really fun to watch. Antonio Gibson had a touchdown, but we'll get on to the next one. The Panthers go into Miami and lose to the Dolphins 42-21. And our stud of the week right here, Raheem Mostert has 11 touchdowns through 6 games. It's kind of unheard of stuff. He's really trying to mess around and win Offensive Player of the Year. It's crazy. Raheem Mostert, MVP candidate. And yeah, honestly, like a nice, better than expected effort from Bryce Young and the Panthers. They kind of fed it to Thielen, 3rd and Thielen. He's the wide receiver 3 in fantasy right now. So shout out to PPR Thielen. But yeah, it wasn't enough. They got out to the good start, but it wasn't enough to beat this high-powered track team of an offense.
If you had any Dolphin fantasy player, if you had any of those guys, you were probably pretty nervous coming into this game that was going to be a blowout, and by the second half that it was going to be just a Mike White and backup running back, backup wide receiver type of show. But when the Panthers came out to that, I think it was a 14-0 lead.
Yep,
that was best case scenario for any Dolphin player manager, because that was, they just had to go pedal to the metal, and they did. And I mean, Tyreek's ridiculous, Jalen Waddle's insane, obviously Raheem Mostert, it's crazy. And Tua, I feel like Tua the last 2 years should have been being drafted higher. I don't know what kind of scared us away from him, but just with his weapons, the dude needs to be drafted higher. And next year he's going to be going high in drafts.
Tua in fantasy has to be like a locked and loaded top 5 quarterback moving forward. It's crazy. It's honestly crazy. Everyone missed on him again.
His ceiling every week is the quarterback one every week.
Mm-hmm.
And then
first half of this game.
Yeah. Chuba Hubbard, I mean, he looked awesome. 19 carries for 88 yards and a touchdown.
He's a must start in any game that Miles Sanders isn't starting.
Is he It seems like they aren't happy with Miles Sanders even before he got injured. Has he been in trade talks at all? Didn't they pay him a lot of money?
They did pay him a lot of money. I think they haven't been happy with just his on-field performance and his ball security, but I don't think I
They
don't
probably
know what
can't
they
trade
could get.
him.
Yeah, I don't know what they could get.
I would love, as a Miles Sanders and Chuba manager, I'd love if they traded Miles Sanders because Chuba just looks better.
Yeah, I mean, it could be one of those things where it just comes completely out of nowhere, and just it happens. I could totally see it, but yeah, I haven't heard anything about that. That would be interesting though,
Yeah.
because Chuba probably could take the workload. When they traded McCaffrey, that was kind of their plan. Him and Deontay Foreman, that was their running backs the rest of the year. So yeah,
So yeah, then just do it with Chuba and Raheem Blackshear because Laviska Shenault, I don't think he broke his like his fibula, but he's out for multiple weeks, I know. So they're on bye though. So we'll see if Miles Sanders gets healthy in the next 2 weeks for week 8.
yeah, it's unfortunate that Thielen's on bye. I need him this week, but we'll get on to the next game. The Vikings go into Chicago and beat the Bears 19-13 in a sloppy game. Sloppy game. And what's new with these teams? They've been playing sloppy games every game so far this year. But I thought Madison looked all right. Didn't really have too great of a fantasy performance, but watching the game, I thought Madison looked pretty good. They were involving him well, but that
He
just nothing was getting going on either side really on offense.
No, but he had 7 targets. Like if you have him, I mean, I have him as my running back. If you have him as your running back, you and 18 carries. That is, I don't know, because it seemed like Cam Akers was starting to get a little bit more work, a little bit more, a little bit more. And then this week it was like 99% Alexander Madison, 1% Cam Akers.
Mhm.
I don't know if he did something in practice that made him. I don't know. It's kind of weird because I definitely thought it was going to be more of a split, maybe 60-40 Alexander Madison. He got all the work this week, which personally I love to see. And he was fine. He didn't hurt you. You weren't happy, but he was just fine.
Yeah, if you're a Madison owner, you're just happy with the usage. You're happy moving forward, hoping that they use him the same as like a 3 down, every down back. And like honestly, there's not too much to take away in this game. Justin Fields got hurt. That sucks. You hope that he's back soon. I don't think there's too much of an update. It's looking like Tyson Bagent might start a game or two though.
He's probably going to be out a week. It just comes down. They said if he can grip the ball because it's his throwing thumb.
Great. That doesn't sound too optimistic then. And for DJ Moore, that's scary because DJ Moore showed that he's not perfect.
Nope.
All right. Yeah. Nothing too much to take away in this game. KJ Osborne disappointed after a good start. It looked like he was going to have a good week and really disappointed. And Addison's the must start moving forward with the upside.
Definitely.
And Hawkinson is insane. Hawkinson's going to be awesome. He's going to be a target machine moving forward. Love that. We'll get on to the next one. The Patriots go into Vegas and lose to the Raiders 21-17. This game pretty much went exactly how us two expected this one. The Patriots are just not the same Patriots. Simply, it's sad, but Mac is rough, and yeah, Shane and I both hit the Mac interception over, and we cashed in on that one.
I want to mention me and Danny, we cooked up some pretty solid parlays on underdog this weekend. One of them being a Mac Jones interception along with an Adam Thielen touchdown and Tyreek Hill touchdown. That one hit. There's a couple others that we cooked up. We might have a good thing going there with some easy money between us that we can make because there's a couple, we might do too many big ones, but I think we just stick with the 3-leggers. We can make some good money.
Yeah, we got together Saturday night and like looked at the best, kind of just what ones we like the best, talked them through, and it honestly worked. It was definitely my best week of betting. Tonight I got 2 bets tonight, so we did really good tonight. Yeah, we'll have to start doing that more often, and maybe we'll start posting our bets for people to follow. But yeah, this game, Max Crosby took over, just an absolute beast. I'm not too surprised the Raiders won. I just feel like they have more star talent than the Patriots, who are such a stale team. They're a stale like team to watch offensively. They're a stale roster. Like they don't have that much talent. It's tough. The Patriots need to blow it up. Clearly, you just lost to Josh McDaniels and the Raiders, so you're just unserious at that point, and it's not working.
Yeah, I mean, this was just a gross game. Red zone kept I had AJ Brown and the Eagles game was going at the same time, and they just kept showing this game, and it's so frustrating. This was just such an ugly game between 2 ugly, terrible teams. So that was frustrating. Ramondre finally looked good. He got hurt, came back in, but he looked good. I would say maybe sell high if you can. other than that, I mean, Michael Mayer, one relevant game. I don't know if he's worth putting a lot of fab into. Maybe he's worth picking up and seeing what he does this week. Other than that, just not much in this game.
Yeah, not much with the state of tight ends. Michael Mayer's a stash. But yeah, Kendrick Bourne, he had a good game, but like we said with the Patriots offense, it's so unreliable. You don't really want any pieces of it, even if it's Kendrick Bourne getting a lot of targets. It's rough. Zeke and Ramondre had good games in this game, but I don't see them really having good finishes in fantasy. It's really hard. It's a hard outlook for both these teams. And like you said, in red zone, it was pretty much just Max Crosby making plays. But we'll get on to the next game. A little more of an exciting game, an NFC game. The Lions going to Tampa and beat the Buccaneers 20-6. And although it was 20-6, like I feel like the Buccaneers played good. Honestly, like it was a great game in my opinion. But yeah, the Lions defense, man, like what an improvement from that unit from last year. They've been great. The football team in general is just so good. They're a legit contender, and they're just playing great team football. And what a damn block from Craig Reynolds on that Amon-Ra touchdown. That was fun. That kind of exemplifies the Lions team right now, just team football. They're playing really good, good chemistry. And yeah, it was a great game. Like I honestly respect to Baker. I didn't even think he was that bad. I saw him kind of beating himself up in the press conference, but I thought the Buccaneers were fine. It was just tough sledding in the red zone. They couldn't get any touchdowns.
Yeah, and I thought this game was going to be more of a shootout. I lost Anthony Richardson, so I had to go to the waiver wire and stream a quarterback, and I have Mike Evans, so I thought maybe a Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans stack would be big this week, and it wasn't. It was Baker was okay, but no touchdowns. He had a pick that got tipped. It wasn't necessarily his fault. It just seemed like they couldn't really get anything going. It took him a while to actually start going to Mike Evans. It was a pretty frustrating game, but the Lions are legit. They are a legit Super Bowl contender. It's crazy to say that, but they really are. It's unfortunate David Montgomery, he got knocked out, and it's looking like he's going to be out at least a week, if not longer. So that's just all the more reason for Jared Goff and the Lions to air it out. Now that they don't have their ground and pound guy.
Yeah, and hopefully Jahmyr Gibbs hopefully Jahmyr Gibbs is back from injury soon. I don't know exactly when his timetable is, but it seems like he's close. I have him like almost every league, so I'm really banking on him coming back soon. But yeah, hopefully Jahmyr Gibbs can kind of take over some of that David Montgomery load as well. And I want to talk about that Jameson Williams touchdown because he was looking around like he had no idea where the ball was, and Jared Goff just threw it so perfectly, he just placed it into a breadbasket. And Jameson Williams thankfully held on. So yeah, respect to Jared Goff. He's playing some great football, and good job for Jameson holding on.
Yeah.
And Amon-Ra definitely could have been a stud of the week. I think he probably would have been second place. He absolutely balled. He was number one receiver on the week. So shout out to Amon-Ra. He won some people some weeks. And this creamsicle uniform, I can't get over how beautiful it is. The Buccaneers need to change to that as their primary uniforms, but we'll get on to the next game. The Cardinals going to LA and lose to the Rams 26-9. It's pretty uneventful game other than two players that are kind of our takeaways for this one, Kyren Williams and Cooper Kupp. They just took the hell over in this game in LA. It was crazy. They absolute beasts. Do you have their stats accessible real quick? Kupp and Kyren?
Yeah, so Kyren, it's funny. So in the first half, Kyren rushed for 4 yards. In the second half, he rushed for 158. Total 20 carries for 158 yards and a touchdown. I don't know why they weren't going to him all along, but that's because I guess in the first half they were going to Cooper Kupp, who had 7 catches, 148 yards, and a touchdown. That Cooper Kupp, and it was Puka's first down week. I don't think you should look into it too much. I think last week it's hard. I don't think he's going to be this bad, but I don't think he's going to be as good as he was last week. He had almost, I believe, 20 PPR fantasy points. Puka's still going to be a great flex play this week. He was definitely disappointing. And then on the other side of the ball, if you spent up on your fab for the Amari DiMercado, you got scammed. That dude was irrelevant. He only had 2 carries. It was all Keontae Ingram and Josh Dobbs running the ball.
Yeah, little did we know that DeMarcado is just a special teamer / blocker, and Damian Williams was their main bell cow running back.
Yeah.
just picked up off the street out of nowhere, like that week, and he was just the bell cow over Keontae Ingram too. So crazy. That team is so crazy. That team is out of control. They do some wild stuff, man. From Jonathan Gannon not telling people who his quarterback's going to be, even though it was clearly Josh Dobbs. Yeah, just funny stuff. But yeah, the Rams won, and like you were talking about Puka, he dropped a touchdown in this game, so that's unfortunate. There were some points to be made there, but yeah, it's not when they just look at Cooper Kupp every play and it works. It's tough. And I guess that's kind of all we need on this game. Moving forward, you're going to start all the same options. The running backs on the Cardinals, you don't start until James Conner's back, probably with that committee. And Hollywood Brown had 11 targets, so you do love to see that. Hopefully, you can be more efficient with those targets. But we'll get on to the next game. The Eagles go into New York and lose to the Jets 20-14. Wow. The Jets and kind of just Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson versus the world. They took over this game, went off. Jalen Hurts wasn't great, man. I think that's kind of the biggest takeaway that everyone's talking about right now. All over Twitter, I see is people talking about Jalen Hurts' performance. He had 3 picks against the Jets. It's tough Jets defense. They were playing lights out without their 2 top corners. So honestly, respect to the Jets. They rallied.
They really did. Their defense was insane, but Garrett Wilson, he was Zach thrown to him. Garrett Wilson was, I don't want to say great, but 17 PPR points. That's you're happy. You're definitely happy with that. Breece Hall he didn't get as much work as I thought he would. Maybe it's just game script. Maybe it's just that Eagles defensive line they were trying to avoid. He got saved by that touchdown that it ended up working out for them, but I think they should have just need it and got out of there. But it worked out for them.
Yeah, they definitely let him score on that one. But yeah, and Garrett Wilson, you love to see that performance. It makes you really optimistic moving forward against a good defense, especially. I think you can start Garrett Wilson every week moving forward. And for the Eagles, AJ Brown, absolute monster. He's just balling out right now. And yeah.
Well, it's crazy. Devonta Smith actually out-targeted him this week, but Devonta Smith was terrible. He had some bad drops. He really did.
He did, yeah. His press conference after was pretty funny. He's just got to be better. He was hard on himself, and Aaron Rodgers warming up before the game is crazy. That should probably be something we talk about. That's unreal. That is something that kind of gives the Jets motivation to keep going.
Definitely. I mean, it looks like if they make the playoffs, Rodgers could be there for round 1.
Unreal. That guy is something else. Nothing's normal with that guy. But anything else you want to say on this one?
I think Tyler Conklin, with the weird landscape of tight ends, Tyler Conklin is not a bad play if you're in a tough situation. This week, he wasn't as good as the week before, but he's still 3 catches for 24 yards and had 4 targets. He's definitely involved in that offense. And he's still safety net, it seems like.
And are you still selling high on Goddard? You were last week, at least.
I know I was. I probably would, depending on what you can get back. He wasn't obviously as good this week as he was last, but I would still try to sell him. He's been pretty disappointing this year, especially where you drafted him.
Yeah, I think my thing with Goddard as well is this offense isn't as lethal as it was last year, and we're seeing with Devonta Smith as well. If you're not the number 1 option in an offense that isn't a top 5 offense like it was last year, then you're just not going to be as relevant. It's kind of just AJ Brown is the only like really, really relevant option in this offense. So yeah, it's kind of looking like move away from Goddard right now.
Definitely.
All right. Well, yeah, great game from the Jets. Great job rallying around. But we'll get on to the Sunday night football game, a pretty controversial ending and a low scoring one. The Giants going to Buffalo and lose to the Bills 14-9. And the Bills obviously did not impress me at all, and that was a pretty sloppy game, very sloppy game. 14 points at home on a Sunday night football game for the Bills is unheard of, and Tyrod Taylor is better than Daniel Jones. That's my takeaway for the Giants, so that's not great. You don't love to see that. Not a positive.
I think the Giants lose this game if Daniel Jones plays.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I think it would have been uglier. I was thinking they won. I think it would have been a much uglier game, like a 28-9 game, had Daniel Jones played.
Yeah, I think the Bills defense would have gotten a touchdown or something, but the Tyrod Taylor was getting the ball out quick and being safe with it, so they were kind of Uh, he's he's a smart quarterback, so that's kind of what he's done his whole career. But yeah, Saquon was clearly not healthy as well. That's definitely something that was very evident. Is Saquon's not healthy yet, and with the modern medicine, he's going to be playing, and he'll probably get healthier every week. But he's not healthy right now.
Wow, he had 4 catches for 5 yards. That's pretty disappointing. But then he ran the ball 24 times. So like, is he healthy? Maybe, but he did not look healthy, that's for sure. And then James Cook, he didn't. He got more carries than Latavius Murray, but I think Latavius Murray was out there more than him. It was pretty weird.
Oh, Latavius Murray was out there a lot. He was, especially after Damian Harris went out, it was all Latavius Murray. It's crazy how, and now they're working out Leonard Fournette. I guess we can talk about that. They're bringing him in for a visit, and it's looking like he's pretty imminent to sign. So that's really a negative for James Cook. I was looking to buy him a few weeks ago, but now I'm very, very much looking to sell. I do not want James Cook.
I was in the process of getting him just before this past week, last week. I'm so glad that didn't happen. I don't know. Maybe it's a buy low on him, but we'll see what they do with Leonard Fournette, I guess.
Yeah, it's like I saw James Cook had 1 target this week too. By the way, I put the over on James Cook's receiving line, so that pissed me off. He had 1 target this week. That's crazy for James Cook if you're not going to hand him the ball off.
Yeah, that's pretty bizarre because that's usually his bread and butter. What makes him really valuable in fantasy, and nothing this week, especially against this Giants D. You expected more.
Apparently, Latavius Murray is just prime Adrian Peterson for the Bills, and they love him too much. They can't go away from him. But yeah, all the other options are. Gabe Davis was really disappointing. You don't like to see that at all. Dawson Knox wasn't good with no Dalton Kincaid, and yeah, Stephon Diggs is just a star. So
Gabe Davis, it's touchdown or bust. That's why he's had a touchdown every game. He doesn't get a touchdown, and he sucks. Touchdown or bust for Gabe Davis for the most part.
Yeah, par for the course for Gabe Davis. But yeah, just we'll get on to the next game. Tonight's game, the Cowboys going to LA and beat the Chargers 20-17, and it's the reason Stores isn't here with us today.
And I'm glad he's not, because I think this would be just us talking about this game would probably go over an hour.
Oh yeah, this would have to be its own separate podcast with all the rants that we'd have. We'll save you guys the rants, and yeah, I wanted to highlight my star of this game that really stood out. And I know Josh was ranting in our group messages about this guy, especially. He shouted him out. Marquise Bell for the Cowboys, safety, number 14 out there. He's a beast. I remember he was undrafted last year out of Texas A&M, and I remember he had no business being undrafted. He's a fun safety, do it all hybrid nickel backer. He can do everything. So shout out to Marquise Bell. He was literally everywhere for the Cowboys. Made a big stop on the goal line, and yeah, the Chargers just didn't really get it done. I didn't think Herbert looked great in this game. He had a lot of opportunities. He had 2 Keenan Allen open targets that could have easily been touchdowns, and he missed them both. He was just missing throws, and it's not like Herbert really.
And this felt, especially for you and I, when we were talking about what we wanted to take, any CeeDee Lamb over on any of his lines felt extremely easy. Just considering what happened to them last week, you knew they were going to be using CeeDee more. He only got 7 targets, but he brought in all 7 for 117 yards. We knew CeeDee was going to be in for a big game, and that did happen. Tony Pollard, only 15 carries for only 30 yards is pretty terrible, but that catch and run he had was insane. To break that tackle and run for 60 yards or whatever that was. Yeah, 60-yard run. That was crazy. That would have been awesome if he got in the end zone. And
that was electric. That was electric.
Joshua Palmer, he's just a solid flex start. He wasn't solid enough for Josh tonight. It's too bad for him, but he's still a solid flex start.
Yeah, he'll get you that 10. What did he get? Like 10.5 points. Exactly. I didn't even look, but that's what he gets every single week. So he's a good flex option. He'll get you like 10 points, and he can get in the end zone. Herbert was actually looking at him a lot tonight. Probably, I think he might have had more targets than Keenan.
No, he had 7 targets. Keenan had 11, but pretty close.
Okay. Yeah, it seemed like he was really getting the ball to him. But yeah, Tony Pollard and Austin Eckler, both out of the backfield, 2 of the best receiving backs. It was really fun to watch that tonight. I took both their receiving yards, and I'm happy about that.
Yep, same. Eckler was He was very disappointing on the ground. That he had a bad day on the ground. I know it's the Dallas defense, but still, it's Austin Eckler. Definitely expected more out of him.
Yeah, Eckler was completely inefficient on the ground, and like you said, Pollard wasn't too great on the ground either. The Chargers have kind of impressed with their run defense and defensive line better than usual because their run defense is usually a liability. But yeah,
Yep.
I think my takeaway is just Herbert kind of bearded Herbert kind of made some questionable throws that I don't really see from him. Too honest, kind of missed some easy ones, and yeah, the Cowboys are a great team. They're going to be in every game with that defense, and the Chargers didn't really capitalize, and the Cowboys took advantage.
Yep. The Cowboys outcoached the Chargers.
And watching this game, it seemed, yeah, honestly, both coaches in this game are terrible, but the
Yeah.
Cowboys did outcoach the Chargers, which says a lot, a lot. But yeah, and now I completely forget what I was going to say.
Sorry.
It was something about the Chargers. Okay, I completely
Justin Herbert.
No, Mike McCarthy got in my head, and I completely blanked. But yeah, fun covering all these games this week. Fun covering the fantasy football aspects. We'll have our Week 7 preview here in a few days, so tune into the NFL Seekers podcast. Like, subscribe if you liked. But yeah, thanks for joining, Shane.
Yeah, follow us on TikTok. Keep an eye out for a couple underdog picks starting this week.
Yeah, we'll start getting our underdog slips out that we ride with. You guys can either ride with us or against us, depending on how you feel about us. But yeah, thanks for joining, Shane. This was a fun one.
Yeah, it was a good one.
Peace.
Peace.